Welcome to the Power of Coaching, brought to you by the Daring Success Team, a group of 4 coaches from the 4 corners of the earth. I am Hardy Brooklyn. I am a life coach that's based in Brooklyn, New York, that helps my clients live a more authentic life in an incredibly inauthentic world through the power of coaching. Anna, tell us a little bit about you.
Hello, my name is Anna. I am from Milan, Italy. I'm a life coach on a mission to empower women on their journey to self-actualization and personal growth. I coach for empowerment, independence, assertiveness, and total self-acceptance. I'm a proud single mother and a feminist. And now over to you, Stan.
Thanks, Anna. Yeah, I'm a moving forward and goal success coach from Perth, Western Australia. I help people move forward from stuck to an extraordinary life. Over to Isabel.
Thanks, Dan. Well, I'm Isabel, and I'm based in Ecuador in South America, and I'm a women's empowerment coach. I help professional, introverted women and female entrepreneurs to turn their doubts into success. So welcome to the Daring Success Team podcast.
Thank you. And this week we're going to review and kind of sum up a little bit the best we can. It's a big topic, so it's hard to sum up in like 15 minutes. But basically, procrastination, getting unstuck. And this week we had a lot of good information. And the first thing that I'd like to direct towards Isabel is, what type of questions do you use to figure out if your clients are stuck or procrastinating?
Well, usually they come and they just said to me, I feel like I'm at a roundabout and I'm going round and round and I don't know what decision to make, right? It happened to me as well. So, so I tend to ask them to visualize the outcome, right? How would you describe the ideal outcome or the solution? So suddenly they are projecting themselves, so they know what they want to do. So that they know what they want to achieve. So, okay, from now being at that roundabout and the outcome, okay, let's work together to actually reach that goal.
That's great that you're working with your client as a team to move forward to achieve the goal.
Exactly.
Stan, what are 1 or 2 questions that you use to figure out what's the leading belief behind the procrastination of your clients?
So I kind of like them to be aware. So clarity is important. Are they on the roundabout going round and round and we need to get off? Or are they stuck at the side of the road with a flat tire or a broken down engine? So I kind of like to find out what they've got in place, what they've done, and now what's the sticking point for them. And then sometimes that can be, hey, life's in the way, or I don't really want to do this technique, or hey, I'm kind of stuck and I don't know anything. Clarity is usually the big thing I look for.
One of the things that I try to ask my clients when they're unable to do something is I try to ask them what emotion they're feeling when they're trying to move forward or not doing something, what emotion they're feeling and where do they connect that emotion to? And the reason why I do that is a lot of times it figures out a limiting belief or a preconceived notion or just a pattern that happened in their life that's creating fear or something like that.
Might as well be, sorry, I interrupt, Hardy. Something as well might be like a comment they received from a loved one or from a friend or in their environment saying, well, actually, you can't do it. And that's a stupid idea. And sometimes it's just like I'm stuck thinking, or they are stuck thinking, right, if they're telling me that, for sure, I'm going to get stuck and what's the point in doing it? So.
And what is the question that you ask, Stan, your clients when they say, well, I'm going to get stuck. What's the point in doing it? How do you move them forward?
What's the way? So I actually kind of in the same thing. What's the pattern that's coming up for them that makes them think they're going to get stuck? One of the big things I also get people to start doing is to start thinking about the obstacles that might be there and what solutions we can have to overcome them. So when they get to that point, the classic example the other day is I was coaching with somebody and they always have a trouble with tech. I don't know what it is with us coaches, but we're always like, no, I'm not very techie. And that comes up with Fora all the time. So she was like, oh, I'm not very techie. And I'm like, you know how to run Zoom? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, then you can learn the rest of the stuff. But she was already thinking, as you were saying, like, I'm going to get stuck. And we're like, let's have a solution to overcome this. Like, where are you going to get stuck? What can we do about it? Hardy's turned off his mic at the moment.
One of the
So
things
Hardy,
that
what are you doing?
So one of the things that I do with my clients is I try to get them to journal, or at least write down when they're getting stuck, when they're getting procrastinating, or when they're trying to think about something else. Start putting that in the journal, because when you could go back and look at it, it makes it a lot easier to understand it and change it. And for
And
me, and a lot of my clients, what I've noticed is just having them write it down. They can write it down and shred it. It doesn't matter. But it's the physical act of writing it, not typing it. The physical act of writing it creates a good memory pattern. So you can better think about it. And I have one client that was constantly never getting stuff done, never procrastinating. And when they started journaling, what they realized was that they weren't creating a behavior leading up to the act that would make the act a success. So if it was like search for a job, what would the gentleman do? He would go for a run first, then take a shower, then read a book, then have a beer, then search for the job. And when he changed it to go for a run, come home, have a shower, then search for the job, he became way more successful because he was writing off of the adrenaline of the run instead of writing off of the depression of the alcohol.
yeah.
And
Powerful.
Hardy, do you have any particular structure that you use for your journaling, or you just have them free journal?
Depending for when they're getting procrastinating or unstuck, I just allow them to free journal, because then I don't want them to get stuck on the journaling. I don't want to get them stuck on what to write down. I want to tell them, get a scrap of paper, get anything and write it down. You don't even have to save it, because once you write it down, it makes that connection for a lot of people. And when we do structured journaling for people in this space, what I try to have them do is journal before and then journal again right after, how they felt when they accomplished it, how they felt when they overcome, what did they do to overcome that procrastination. Write it all down. And some of the things that came up with this group. So Isabel, what were like, we talked about fear of losing something. I don't really remember exactly what it was around procrastination. So what were some of the other topics, and even that topic, that we brought up with the attendees of the group on Tuesday?
Well, somebody talked about spending a lot of time on internet Googling, right? So, so in a way, she decided at the end as an action to time herself and just say, okay, I've got an hour to Google, and that's it. Because in a way, she said, honestly, that she was getting totally lost with all the information and she was not focusing on the results, right? So she said, okay, now I'm going to time myself regarding searching on Google. So it was like, in a way, setting boundaries, right, with oneself and saying, hey, just phone, the alarm rings, and that's it. Then there was stopping multitasking. And it's true that sometimes, and I do it as well, it's just, oh, I'm going to do a lot of things. And the example as well, you were saying, Hardy, I'm going to do this and that, but I don't do what I have to do or what I want to do or what I should be doing, right, to achieve my goals. So it's better to focus on one thing at the time, right? And then we get that satisfaction that it's done. So somebody gave us a tip, the way he actually deals with procrastination. He starts with the hardest thing on his list. So at least he gets that big achievement, and then he carries on with the rest.
So let me ask you a question about the hardest thing on the list, because everybody thinks different things are hardest. So is it the hardest thing as far as the amount of work the task takes to complete, or is it the hardest task as far as being able to get focused and motivated to do the task? Or is it the actual work is just hard?
Probably the work and the time you're going to spend on it. So you don't get overwhelmed before starting, right? And your mindset is already set. So it's just like, okay, I know it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to get that done and get rid of it to do the rest. And for me, it works as well, because I always feel that my mind is fresh. So I do the hardest thing. So the rest is easier.
Stan, what are some questions that you try to use with your clients to figure out how to find out what are the hardest tasks and activities that they're doing that they're procrastinating on?
Or look, I like to get them to write a list of things they need to do for the day, no more than about 5 to 10. Otherwise, we just get overwhelmed, and now we're into procrastination again. You're like, well, let's cycle around. Look, 5. If you got 5 things, then tell me what the priorities are for each of those 5 things. And then, yeah, that would kind of be the Brian Tracy, eat that frog first. Eat the big frog first. And you you look at your list and you think, okay, what do I need to do here? What's the most priority? And a lot of people are running in, oh, let me do the little job. I'll clean my desk. I'll clean the floor. Hang on a second, I haven't done my project. Then we'd run into deadlines because the project needed to be done, and we're scrambling, pulling all-nighters and, and stuff. So I kind of asked what the priority would be about that, and how would you feel when you've achieved that? And then how are you going to celebrate that you've done that task? And some things are really simple. I'm just going to have a glass of water or a cup of tea, or maybe a biscuit.
And that's important. He said something that's really important: celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I've been working with my clients on is to reward themselves for when they achieve something. So if there's a pattern of behavior that they're working on changing. So I have a client that doesn't behave properly in public, and he's working on that behavior. When he goes out with his wife, he doesn't always say the right thing. Sometimes whatever. So he's been working with me to make his relationship on date night or going out with the wife much more pleasant, because he's not hanging out with the guys.
Mm.
And I commend him for improving his life.
Right. And one of the things that I said is, what do you want to do? Like, when you do this successfully and your wife says that was a great night, you behaved and you did all of these activities, what should be the reward? And surprisingly, he's like, sex.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, so if you don't behave, you don't get it. And he says, and he said, that's what my wife wants. And I said, so how do we work towards that? And setting that up in your mind and your structure, that like, if you're going out and you're drinking and you're using all that frat boy language, don't even expect anything.
Mm-hmm.
Pain and pleasure is
and by
something you look
asking
at.
him questions. What'd you say, Stan?
I said pain and pleasure is something we look for as coaches. What can we move away from pain and towards pleasure?
Right. And it's interesting because once he gets a little bit non-sober mind, he instantly falls back into the frat boy mentality.
Mm. But that's
And the,
something we need to mention as well to our clients, and I'm sure you do, and Stan does as well, is that it's not going to happen in one day, and everybody needs to work at it. I mean, we as coaches, we give the support, but the work has to be done by the coachee, right? And changing the mindset and being aware that when we, as the example of your coachee, go back into the old ways, stop, pause, self-awareness, and just change the mindset. And that's what we teach. That's what we do as a coach. We tell our clients to just, hey, hang on, oh, I'm going back into my old ways. Stop. But it will take a while.
yes, it does. And that's one of the things that I've been working with him is to acknowledge that, to acknowledge the fact that you did something, and then to figure out why he keeps going back into that space. Because when he went back into that space, he was at a frat house. He was very coddled. He was taken care of. He was babied. He had whatever he wanted because it was frat. I mean, we're a little older, so frats were very different when I was a kid than they are now in America. But there was a lot of things where he was very comfortable, and it was 4 years of his life where he was experiencing pure pleasure
Mm-hmm.
because he had no responsibility, and now he's got responsibility. So it's very easy for your mind to set back. And what really helped him was sitting down when they got home
Mm-hmm.
and having a conversation with his partner and then journaling about it.
Mm-hmm. And journal is really good as well, because as you were saying, you can go back and identify patterns and realize that, oh, I behave like that when that happens, and it did happen a few times, and thanks to the journal I've got it in writing in front of me.
So I can remember it
Mm-hmm.
and talk to her about it with my coach.
Exactly. And then when you are in that situation or surrounded by the same people, you are aware that that might happen and you might go back into your old ways. So you get control.
So we're just almost to the end of time for this weekend session because we're trying to make them more concise for everybody to enjoy. The next week's topic was actually a takeaway from this week's session. And that topic was time management. And that came up as far as helping people work with procrastination. How do we, what's one question that you would like people to think about to bring to the next session around time management, which is going to be held on the amazing Tuesday, November. Nope,
It'll still be October. October 3rd.
Tuesday, October 24th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 9:30 p.m. Australian time.
That's Western
And
Australian time because we're really big and we've got multiple time zones.
just like everybody does. You have multiple times. Isabel has lots of time zones where she lives. Zero.
Exactly.
She's
Being
the
on the
equator.
equator line, we don't change the time, and it's always the same time all year through.
It's always
Well, we've
noon
just
and
got it
sunny.
confusing on the East Coast because the East Coast, Queensland has not gone to daylight savings, but New South Wales and Victoria have gone to daylight savings. So they're now 3 hours in front of us, but Queensland are 2 hours in front of us. And I don't know what South Australia is doing in the middle, and we're over here and we don't have daylight savings.
So we're going to have a little time zone for the next 2 months because I think people start changing right about now. And America, I think we changed last, which is November 4th.
Yeah.
So please check your world time buddy to make sure you're at the regular time, but we are going to be stuck. Our workshops are going to be 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. whether it's daylight or standard. We're going to be pinning it to the Eastern time zone for 9:30. We do have some special treats coming up as well. There is going to be a couple of workshops presented by me, myself, Hardy Brooklyn, and one by Isabel. Isabel's going to be doing a workshop on fear of failure. And I'm
Yes.
going to
And
be
Hardy,
doing a workshop on boundaries.
I was going to
Mhm.
say, what are you doing in a workshop on, Hardy?
Boundaries. And that
Boundaries.
boundaries workshop is going to be looks like November 1st. Coming up soon in a couple of weeks. We're going to have a workshop on how to protect yourself, how to set boundaries at home, at work, and at play, and in public. Because people
Mhm.
don't understand that you can set them in all those places. And the last thing I'm going to leave everybody on, because boundaries is the next workshop, is a boundary is something you put on yourself, not on other people.
Ah, very important, Hardy.
Thank
Mhm.
you for joining the Power of Coaching, brought to you by the Daring Success Team. I am Hardy Brooklyn. I'm going to introduce Anna FC, who is not available today, and Stan Nelson and Isabel Nannon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hadi. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Yeah.